How many of you are excited about the starting of a relationship series? Yeah. I think we're gonna do about 8 weeks or more of relationships. And I thought a lot about this because I was like, you know what's interesting is my marriage has been, and we're gonna focus on marriage. We're not just doing marriage, but we're doing family, we're doing parenting, we're doing friends, but it's gonna be a heavy emphasis on marriage, heavy emphasis on romantic relationships, heavy emphasis on the core of the family unit. We're gonna start with a theological backdrop. We're gonna make it theoretical at first and show you how everything is related to your relationship to God, how essentially you are in some ways both a child of God, but you are also called the bride of God. We are collectively called the bride, and so marriage is a metaphor for your relationship with God. And it gives you insight. Everything about your life gives you insight into your relationship with God. And so we'll start very heavily on the theoretical side, the theological side, and move increasingly practical. And it's gonna be driven hardcore by data. Like I'm not interested in just giving you like to-do list and this is what this says. I wanna give you very, very, very practical ways to help your relationships. Very science-backed, study-backed ways in addition to scriptural-backed ways. But we're gonna start with a foundation that's theological, and then we're gonna move through a variety of topics. And what's interesting about this is I thought, Brad, are you really qualified to teach about relationships given how hard your marriage has been? Whoa, yes. I've been married 14 years, okay? That's a good, I figured after I got past 12, I could start talking about it, right? You know, like everybody's like, you know, if you're past 12 years, you can start to talk about your marriage. I've been married 14 years, and I've had a very, very hard marriage. I know y'all think we're cute together, and we have fun, and we smile, and everybody's like, oh, y'all are such a great couple, and oh, it's so interesting. We've wanted to kill each other more often than we can count. Our marriage has been at the precipice of dissolution multiple times. Oh, hello? And you're like, well, why are you talking about relationships? I thought a lot about this. It's easy to talk about getting on the top of a mountain when you're at the peak, right? When somebody's flown you there and you took a blimp up there and you were highly compatible and everything worked and it was fluid and nice. It's a lot more interesting to me when you had to run out of oxygen on the way up, when you ran out of food, when you were stuck in a cave 1/3 of the way up. I want to hear that story about how you got your arm stuck in a rock and had to saw it off and still finish the journey. That's the story that I want to hear. I don't want to hear about how you blimped your way to Everest. I want to hear about how you ran out of everything and still found your way to the top of the mountain, okay? Because here's what I can tell you about my marriage that has actually brought me confusion at times. God put it together. God put this mess together, Rachel. It has been hard and beautiful and ugly and moments of bliss and moments of despair, moments of confusion where I go, I know the vision that I had. I know the family that I have. I called my son forth out of my loins. Rachel saw a light enter him. The hand of God has enter her. The hand of God has been on this family, and yet it has been so challenging at times. And the thing that I like about that as a pastor is that nothing about my life has been clean. Nothing has been clean. I have been dragged through the mud. This faith thing has been a fight. I have contested for it and with it every day that I've been saved, and even before then when I didn't realize it, and there has been nothing easy about this thing that I'm doing. And at first I go, well, wait a minute, why is this the case? Because I can watch 100 churches down the street and all the pastors are like, yippee-yee, yippee-chippee-true, everything's good, everything's easy. But you know what? I'm okay with it now. Because there's no other way a high priest can reach his people without feeling their pain, right? How can I really talk to you about what you're going through if I don't know what it's like to go through it myself? How can I talk to your kids about addiction truly and understand them if I haven't tasted it myself? Now, I know there's people that can, but that's not my story. I've heard so many stories about people being delivered instantly, praying, and they're delivered from anger, they're delivered from addiction, their marriage is healed, they're all of this. And I'm going, you know what? That's not my journey. I have been with God, walked with the Holy Spirit, and walked through hell to get to this point. And you know what? God has been with me every step of the way. God has been with me every step of the way, and he'll continue to be with me today and tomorrow. And so the thing about it is, when you've had such a high intensity marriage, high stress marriage, when you've had such difficulties, one of the things you have to do is work really, really hard. You have to go to counselors. You have to go to therapy. You have to pray. You have to put in effort. And when you put in a lot of effort, you learn a lot of things. And that's the benefit. And Rachel and I have learned a lot of things. We've learned how to make things that God put together that don't seem to work, right, on the surface. The things that you make them work because God said he will make it work. And so you put in the effort, and that's the place that I'm speaking from. You know that you've been through stuff when you're watching Will and Jada talk about their marriage, and you go, I kind of get it. I like there's elements that I understand. You know you're bad when like that starts to make sense to you, right? Things are pretty bad off when you're like, oh, wow. The fact that Will and Jada Smith actually sound coherent to me right now, that I'm sympathetic to them, I know that I've been through things. And the thing, as a pastor, I've counseled so many people that I've seen it over and over. We come in our Sunday suits, me most of all, looking good. We look pretty, and yet I've heard story after story about struggle and hardship and pain and secrets. And I know all of your secrets. I know all of your secrets. The ones that you haven't told me, the Lord has told me, believe it or not. And we all have these things that we carry, and so often church becomes this place where we just pretend that things are easy and good. And I'm not interested in that. Quite frankly, Jesus wasn't interested in that. He said, I didn't come for the healthy, I came for the sick. This is not a church for people who've got it all together. This is not a church where everything's right, with everybody's got it easy. This is a church for people that need help. And let me tell you something, I think this series is gonna help you. I think that God wants to bless your relationships. I think that God wants to give you relationships and fruitfulness. And I think that the enemy, who is very, very real, will do everything that he can to destroy those relationships, because if he can destroy those relationships, he can destroy your destiny in them. If Rachel and I go down, this thing gets affected, right? If we go down, this whole, I can't do this by myself. She can't do this by herself. God put us together because we need each other. And we understand the importance of purpose. But purpose doesn't teach you how to communicate. Purpose doesn't translate into sex. Purpose doesn't teach you how to raise kids. We might know we have purpose, but we've got a lot to figure out in order to make that purpose stay together. And so thank God that he's given us resources. And one of the things that I'm just so glad to have John and my mom back here, G. Paul and Mom, it's good to have you guys back. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was starting this series is I've been blessed with resources. My mom and John have not only just financially, but through people that they know have helped us. They've helped us themselves. She's been through hell. Hopefully they'll talk. I would love to have them do elements of this relationship. She knows what it's like to have purpose on her life and go through hell in relationships, to know, and you know, there's so much about her that y'all would not even understand. It looks like one thing. You read an article, you read this, and the stories say one thing, but you don't know what she's had to carry for 20 years of a marriage where she was abused and had the third largest church in America, right? I mean, you go through hell sometimes. And then when it falls apart, the world doesn't say, let me understand what happened. Do they? They say, who's next? Who's going to give us that tickle next? Who's going to make us tingle next? That's not, hey man, here's how I see it. This lays out the goals, but in pastoring, you have to understand the context. This is the goal. Everything in here is the goal. But I've learned that when you're pastoring, you have to understand the context. You have to meet people where they're at. You can't just say, here's the prescription, you do this, do this. You say, okay, here's the goal, but where are you at? Let me meet you at the well. You don't have to come to me, I'm gonna come to you. And we're gonna find a path together to wholeness. And too often we just prescribe what wholeness looks like without actually giving the medicine. So, all right, let's get into it. Today we're gonna start with the Greek loves. This is an oversimplification, but I think it's important. This is the theological basis of everything in a relationship is love. And the New Testament was obviously written in Greek. Y'all know that, Koine Greek. You're aware of that? How many of you are aware of that? Good, okay, we have that knowledge, that's good. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew. So we have that as well. The Old Testament that was used in the time of the New Testament stories was actually Greek as well. It was called the Septuagint. So that's mostly the familiarity that they were used with Greek. So the reason that I'm talking about the Greek loves is because it's a good starting point to understand what the foundation of relationships are. When the Bible talks about relationships, it talks about it in terms of love. And when it talks about it in terms of love, it tends to use 3 different words. But I'm gonna cover 4 loves today, because there's one that the Bible avoids, and there's a reason for that, but it's equally important. So we're gonna go through the 4 loves that are found in Greek culture around the time of the Bible, okay? Is that good? Is that good? Does that make sense? There's a reason I'm doing that. I wanna lay a good foundation. We're gonna talk about God's relationship to you and how that relates to you and your family, how that relates to you and your spouse, and hopefully we'll give you a self-assessment. You'll be able to self-assess and say, what kind of love do I have inside of me for my spouse? What kind of love do I have inside of me for my children? What kind of love do I have inside of me for God? What kind of love do I have inside of me for my enemy? Y'all with me? Give me some feedback today, because I'm slowing down. And if I'm not then I'll feel all nervous about your silence. Here's the 4 loves. We're gonna go through philia, right? How many of you have heard of that? Okay. It's like a friendship love, like a brotherly affection. Have you heard of this? Good. Storge, have you heard of storge? That's another type of love. Storge is the familial bond. Familial bond, we're gonna discuss each one of these in terms of how many times they're used in the New Testament and what the context of their use is. Agape. You've heard of it. Thank you, Crystal. I like it. That's what I like. Be like that. You've heard of it. But this is a good conversation. Agape is divine love. It's divine love. It's the word that's used more than any other word for love in the Bible. It's the word that's used for the love of God towards you. And it's the most commonly used word. And then the 4th one that's actually not used in the New Testament, but it's important to understand, is eros. How many of you have heard of eros? Oh, everybody's heard of eros. Yes, eros. And eros, agape is a divine love. It became known as a divine love. Eros is where we get the word erotic from. It's mostly associated with sex, but doesn't mean sex, it means desire. So it means like a passionate desire. And it was the word that was used for love in the ancient Greece. There was actually a deity, Eros. That becomes important because this is going to play into the later series. You're going to see that Eros, the early Christian church's desire to break away from cultic Greek and pagan thought led to certain lines of thought that became anti-sex, anti-union, Augustinian's shame of the body. All of that stuff is going to play a role in your life. You don't think it does, but it does. It ends up playing a role in your life. And so one of the things that I liked about Pope Benedict XVI is his reclamation of Eros. He ended up writing a paper where he talked about the church reclaiming Eros, reclaiming erotic love. And I think it's very important that we discuss that because the early church did not know how to handle that well. But see, desire and union and eros is in the Bible, it's just not named that way. There's a reason that you're called a bride. There's a reason that we participate in the blood and body of Christ. It is deeply about union. It is deeply about desire, but there's a proper order to it. And so often what we do is go through philia, go through storge. We have brotherly affection. We have familial affection. But then we try to get to eros. We want to desire, we want union, but we skip agape. And if you skip agape, you'll have disordered love. If you skip agape, if you skip the way that God does it, your love will be disordered. You will always be seeking something that you cannot find, and you will always be wanting something that does not fill you. All right. So, agape is used about 116 times in the New Testament. 116. A derivation of it, to love, is used about 143 times. I say about because there's additions that vary slightly. And so we say about, it's an estimate, 116 times and 143 times. I would call that important. Filio is used, the friendly love is used about 29 times. 29 times. And storge, which is the family-like bond, is used about 3 times. It's used about 3 times. So we're gonna go through it. So philia obviously is a brotherly bond. And when we talk about the word agape in its origin, it was originally kind of commingled with philia. It meant affection. In the ancient Greece, it was a rarely used word. Agape was a rarely used word. The reason I'm bringing this up, Asia, it's important. It's important because when a word is rarely used in a culture, and then all of a sudden that use ramps up when a certain other culture emerges, you have to wonder why that is, correct? So agape, the word agape was very rarely used in ancient Greek culture. And it meant kind of affection, that you valued something, you had an affection for something. If you wanted to talk about love, you mostly talked about eros. You desired something. You desired something. And eros was personified as a deity. Eros was the goal. It wasn't simply about sex. It was also the drive towards virtue. It was the drive towards union. There was nobility attached to it, but it was fundamentally rooted in human drive. Y'all catch that? Is my wife, did you just yawn, baby? I lost you already. We're talking about hard, man. My wife's over here yawning. I'm during my teaching. I'll speed it up, honey. I'm sorry. All right. Agape is used rarely, and it means like affection, and eros is used dominantly. So this word is used rarely, Asia, and that's important to note because when the New Testament comes around, when the church comes around, all of a sudden, they're not using the word eros to talk about love. They're using the word agape. They take this one word and they start ramping it up and describing it as agape, which makes you wonder, why would they do that when they had an existing word? They had the word eros. So why are they using agape? They're clearly not only trying to distinguish themselves as a culture, but they're trying to distinguish the love of God as something new. This is distinct from what you knew. The world around you knew of eros. They had an idea of love. They had an idea of how to attain this love. But we are introducing a new concept to you. So we're going to take this word that was rarely used for love, and we're going to use it so much that by the time it gets to our era, it's no longer defined by affection. It's defined by divine love. Do you understand? They've used it so much that essentially Christianity co-opted the word agape and said, this is our word for God's love, and it's distinct to us. And now when we say agape, it means divine love. And so it means that they were intentionally trying to distinguish themselves. Why were they trying to distinguish themselves? Because they were trying to distinguish the character of God's love for us. It was not like the love that we knew. It was not like the love that the Greeks knew. It was not like any other love. It was something that was entirely distinct and different. And it did not start with us, but it starts with him. And this is foundationally different. Foundationally different. What makes agape and this love so unique as a foundation to relationships is that it's completely outside of human effort. That there's something deep to what I'm saying right now. Maybe I'm not expressing it well, but the implication is pretty heavy. That the word that's used for God's love says, you know what? We will not use a word that is connotated with human effort. We won't give any indication that you can do anything to receive the love that God has for you. And the reason in part that eros was so rejected is not simply because it was associated with cultic sexuality, prostitution, and divine madness, but it was also associated with human effort, human drive. And the implication was that the more that you wanted something, the harder you had to pour out your flesh to get it. And Christianity comes along and says, you agaped him because he agaped you. Meaning, you can't even begin to understand love until you understand that he poured himself out for you without you doing anything to earn it, to deserve it. There's no ritual, there's no rite, there's no ecstasy, there's no desire, there's no drive inside of you that can explain the unbounding, unending, the unrelenting love of God for you. So much so that he would die on a cross, which became the ultimate expression of what Christian love is. So we have philia, and philia is this brotherly love. It's used often in the Bible, but it's talked about in terms of like, hey, me and Demetrius are buddies. We're buddies. We're buddies. You get on my nerves sometimes, but I love you, you know? Like brothers, I know I get on your nerves too, I can tell. I know you love me. That's phileo. It's a brotherly bond. We're connected, and like that's a good love. Me and Hank been best friends since I was 16 years old. It's phileo. So that's an easy bond. That's the Jonathan and David bond. God has phileo too with Abraham. He said that this is one of the things that I love. I love Abraham because God says Abraham was a friend to God. It's not just that you can be a son or you're a bride, but you can also be a friend to God. There's a relationship with God that includes phileo, where he walks with you in the garden and he hangs out with you like a bro. God will hang out with you like a bro. It's cool. And if you're one of the girls, whatever y'all do, that's your thing. Whatever the equal, philia is a thing too. So there's a feminine affection and a clique with girls too. And the same thing applies. God will be your friend. He will see you in that way. And obviously, storge exists, where God sees you as a child. The most important bond and relationship that existed eternally was one of storge, a father and the son. God the Father and his Son, they do all of these things for each other. The Father implements a plan that glorifies the Son, and the Son says, I will do nothing but glorify the Father. Whatever his will is mine, and mine is his, and we're just bound together so much that we're one. We are one. That's storge. That's a familial love. And most of us confuse agape for storge and storge for agape. Most of us confuse agape for philia and philia for agape. And this is something that actually my marriage taught me. One of the reasons that, Rachel, I think we've had to go through so much is because I wouldn't know about the depths of God's love had I had it easy. I would have thought myself being a pastor, being a Christian, having a gift of prophecy, you and I having all of these things, right? Seeing God manifest in our life, that I knew what the love of God was and that I was enacting the love of God, so that when I heard a scripture like, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church, even laying down your very life, that I could go, oh, that is me. Do you know what I've realized in the difficulty of my marriage? I haven't even come close to the love of God. It's a goal. I haven't come close to the love of God. Can I tell you something? I'm not a super biblical husband yet. I want to be. It's my goal to be. But I'd be lying if I told you I died to myself for that woman every day. That's just a lie. It's just not true. Do you know how often I've said, my needs, me, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what, Rachel, this is what I need out of you. Do you know how often my wounds have spoken louder than this book? Oh, y'all are all liars. I'm gonna quote John. Those who say they have no sin are a liar. My marriage has humbled me because I've realized that all the things that I projected onto Rachel that I was lacking, God said about me to him. Are y'all with me? All the ways that I thought, Rachel, you're not submissive enough. You're not this enough. You're not unified with me. There's not connect. There's not this. There's not this. There's not. I want this. I want this. I crave this. I need this. And I complained to God and said, God, you gave me a wife that's this, but this, and you asked me to love her. And he says, how do you think I feel about you, boy? Is this too real? Is this gonna be, are we gonna? And how could I learn unless I was pursuing him and had a mirror by which to see what he did that I cannot do? It makes me fall on my knees and go, I want it. That's what I want. But more so, thank you for giving it to me. And I think too many pastors get up, too many people in church get up and act like we've perfected agape. We've perfected the love of God, like we're there. I can barely, if at all, lay down my life for my wife. I most certainly can't do it for my enemy. And God did not only do it for those he loved, he did not only do it for his children, he did it for those who despised him, for those who rejected him, for those who said, I'll never accept this love. And he says, I die anyway for you. What kind of love is this? And if you tell me you have it, let me shake your hand. Because that is incredible. Let's swap places. Because Mom, I want to get there, but I don't think that's in me yet. May the Holy Spirit take me there. May I end my days where I can say, not only would I fully lay down my life for those that I love, my brother, my wife, my family, but for my enemy in a way that God laid down his life for his enemy. That is the goal. That is the goal, but it is in our imperfection. It is in our inability to achieve it that we have the humility to say, God, what you did for us is so remarkable. What you've done for us is so much greater than any human love that we can receive. So Storge I have, because, and I was thinking about this, I would take a bullet for my children. I would die for my kids in a heartbeat. When I was at a point where I thought I was gonna get divorced, yes, that happened. Let me just clear the ground rules right now, just so y'all know. I've never cheated on Rachel. Rachel's never cheated on me. I'm not saying that as a big pat on the back. I know people in this room that have had affairs. I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm better because I never. I'm just saying as a pastor, I'm going to bring your mind to ease to let you know what the nature of our problems are. They've been communication. They've been difficulty, but we've never cheated. To be honest with you, it's probably because I didn't have the opportunity. No, let me be straight. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like, yeah, I just wouldn't have done it. Like, God's grace kept the wrong situation at the wrong time from occurring in my life. And I'm glad we haven't crossed that bridge. You know, there's things we haven't done. So when I talk about hardship, I'm not talking about anything that would traditionally cause a church to split or anything like that. Just talking about Just two people that have been traumatized. I'm like a 6-year-old boy and she's like a 14-year-old girl that lost her dad. And we're both working out our trauma, trying to figure out a life together while we're raising kids. That's hard. You don't need an affair for a marriage to be hard. And so I just want to make that clear, because some of y'all's mind will run away. You'll be like, what is Pastor Brad doing on the weekends? She's had to deal with addiction from me. She's had to deal with addiction. I'm sober. Let me get that clear, because I've heard rumors cropping around like, I am sober. Okay? That's the bad thing about like talking about your problems, is people just project more onto you. Believe it or not, we're pretty stable, steady guys. But I feel intensely. I'm a passionate man, and boy, do I have a temper too. I've got a temper. And there's times when, and we're gonna talk about male and anger and all of those things. We're gonna get into the practicality, we're gonna get into the weeds, but Rachel and I have had those things despite, we've had issues of the heart. We've had issues where we've tried and tried and tried, and it's just been challenging. And so I just wanted to lay that out. But in the moment where I thought we were really gonna divorce, I went through this thing where like, how much do I really love my family? And I did. We're gonna go here too. I looked at my kids and I go, there's points when marriage gets hard, you go, is this a point of pleasure or is this a point of pain? Did this trap me? Or did this bring me something fruitful? Y'all, some of y'all know, I'd say about a quarter of you know what I'm talking about. And you looked and I thought, how do I know that I really love my kids? How do I know that? And I thought, what would happen if somebody broke in right now? What would I do? Like, y'all see me kiss Asher, y'all see me kiss Nick, but I try to be real with myself. And I'm like, do I love how deep does this run? And I realized I would give my life for him in a heartbeat. It's real. It's real. There's nothing that would stop me from doing anything for my children. Now, the reason I question that is because sometimes I thought I'm gonna walk out on this marriage and that's gonna affect my children. Right? And you go, I'll take a bullet for him, but I can't stay with this woman for him. That's confusing. Oh, Mama, you gotta take this church back. It's the second anniversary, we're already here. All right, we're hurrying up. But then I realized, Storge, I have that. Like, I have that. This row here, Philia, I have. Storge, I have. You're my family. I have that. I would do a lot for you guys. The further back you sit, except for that section over there. Hey, Ethan. I'm kidding. The further back you sit, the less I do for you. So come up front. I'm joking. But I have Storge, I have Philia. So I thought, yeah, I would die for my kids. And then believe it or not, I said, would I die for that woman over there? That beautiful girl. Oh, I don't want to admit it, but I would. I would die for that woman. I would. I love her. I love her with. And I thought, yeah, I would. I would die in a lot of ways. I would die physically. There's a lot of ways inside that I have not died. And that led me to go, do I have agape? Do I have that self-giving love? Because agape is not a feeling. It's a relational maturity that says, I'm so big, I'll sacrifice me for you. I will carry the load of this relationship. And men, when the Bible says, love your wife as Christ loved the church, even laying down his very life for her, it means be so vast in who you are in your manhood that it does not even matter what she does. You're willing to carry the load till the bitter end to make sure this thing works. If you are a man, that is your duty. And that is your responsibility. And unless you can do that, the marriage will not work. Because there is nowhere in the relationship between male and female, just like there's nowhere in the relationship between God and man where God says, submit to me first and then I'll die for you. So I see a lot of men, including myself, who are like, submission, I want you to graft Eve back into Adam. That's my goal. I want the two flesh to become one. I want that woman whole world to orbit me. When I walk into the room, I want her to be like, excuse me, everybody, I'm done praying for you here at the I want her to say, the king has arrived. I'm not lying. Y'all think I'm joking. That's the truth. And I demand it. But you can't demand it without the agape. The more I demand it without the agape, the further it'll go. And so the boy in me has to go, I want this thing. But the man in me says, well, here's how you get it. Pick up your cross and die. You have to do what God does. We agape him because he agaped us. And men, in your marriage, if you have one and God has put it together, it's because he's trying to make you a king. Let me teach you a secret, a mystery about this thing. If it was easy, your kingship wouldn't emerge. He's God of the universe. He could have made Christ king anyway. And he chose a cross. He chose death. He chose self-sacrifice. He could have made him king anyway. He could have made me king anyway. I'm a king, y'all. I'm royalty. I mean it when I say that. But you know what? The kingdom does not come by me telling you that. It comes by me dying to myself, with the knowledge that in God's hand, nothing truly dies. It is a seed for something more. And so the more that I can truly say, you know what, Brad? You got to swallow that pain, boy. You got to process that pain. You got to deal with your hurts. You got to deal with your insecurities. You got to deal with that. You got to carry this family. And you got to die. Not because nothing returns to you, but because that's the way you get everything you're looking for. Are you with me? Because when I do that in the marriage, all of a sudden she goes, I want to be around that guy. There's something about that I like. When you have a steady son, Jesus was not a weak man. Don't confuse this for doing what they want. Oh, hello. Don't make the confusion of thinking that means you do what they want, that they rule the roost. No. It means that a steady leadership emerges that walks the path with gentleness but firmness, with control and self-discipline, with the ability to die to self and say, you know what? There's not going to be disorder, but there's also not going to be insecurity. Right? And too often men will either abandon the project or they'll give in. You can't do either. Jesus couldn't let the dictates of the world determine his path, so much so that even his own disciples he rebuked when they said to take a different road. That's a man. He says, I'm not taking that road. I don't care if it's shorter. I don't care if it's easier. I don't care if it makes more sense. I'm going the way that God told me to go, and you can come with me. You will come with me. And if not, that's your choice. It's slow and steady. That's what a husband does. It's what a man does. And then in response, the woman goes, I'm safe here. I can orbit this. I can trust this. I'm safe. And that is what we do with God. He puts his hand on our life and he studies the path. He studies the path and he goes and he's mature and he sacrifices himself. And we see that and we go, I'm safe here. If God will do this for me, then I can trust him with the darkness of my soul. If God will die on a cross for me, then I can pour out my shame, my sin, and my insecurities to him. I can trust him. See, this is the thing about God. Every other religion that it gets wrong, there's always a distance. But in our faith, where Christ is God and he has died for us, we end up trusting him so fully because it's an act of such self-sacrifice that we can actually come to him with our troubles. We don't have to hide who we are. We can come to him fully, and then he can actually heal us because we've removed the garments that have hid our leprosy. And a husband is the same way. We're called to be the same way. And so, agape gives of itself, but it doesn't end there. Even though the Bible used agape as a counterpoint to eros. Eros means desire and union. And it turns back into union with God. And this is the beautiful thing about the concept of eros and the concept of agape. They're not mutually exclusive. They fuel each other. The more you sacrifice in a relationship, the more you sacrifice for desires to be with you. Let me say that again. I said the more. The one that you sacrifice for, the more they will desire to be with you. Does that make sense? And so there is this relationship that we have with God that operates the same way. He sacrifices for us, and that draws us in. And the more that he has done for us, the closer we want to be with him, to the point where the things that are described in the Bible are things of intimacy. Eat of my body. Drink of my blood as a reminder of my agape. Participate in me. Be one in spirit. That's literally what Paul says, that we're one in spirit with him. That's union, divine union. We're described as a bride who he returns for. The language that God uses over us is the language of jealousy. It's the language of a husband over a wife. God is deeply passionate. It is deep. He says, I want you. I crave you. Don't you look at those other gods. Don't you even think about those other gods. Keep your eyes on me. Nobody can do for you what I can do for you. That's how God is. And the more he proves it, the more we go, that is right. It's weird. Come on, Mom, you should preach this part. Because I'm a guy. So it's weird. We see but it's like, yeah, that's right. You do it for me. You have what I want, God. You do it for me. You're everything that completes me. The more that you give me, the more I desire you. And he speaks of us in those possessive terms. And so his self-sacrifice leads to our interdependence and reliance upon him, and our desire to give ourselves over to him completely. And this is the foundational nature of relationship. We have brotherly affection, we have family bonds, but we want union. We want that life force. We want to connect. Everybody's just trying to connect. They're trying to connect through sex. They're trying to connect through music festivals and dance. I'll never forget when I used to go to Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza. And before I was a Christian, I would go as a Christian. I'm not saying it for that reason. I would still go now. But I'm saying before I was a Christian, when I would go, there was like a mystical experience to it. And we were all like, we were just one for a moment chanting a song. And it just felt so, ooh. And I wanted that, and I was like, can't this just last forever? And it never does. We all want that experience, but none of us want agape. None of us want to give of ourselves in order to create it. And you can't have one without the other. And those are the foundations. The more God gives of himself, the more you crave him. The more that you give of yourself in a relationship, the more it will draw the one you are giving to you. And that is the biblical command. And I'm wrapping up. Let's see if there's anything else I have to say about this. Does this make sense as a first teaching? Let me give you practicalities. I promised practicality, so let's move to practicalities. Let's work through data-driven studies. Couples who consistently notice and respond to bids for connection are more stable in relationships. This is the philia. Each one of these has an important aspect of your relationship, okay? I'm gonna get through these and I'm going to wrap up. I have a lot of scripture too, so I'll print notes. I'll print notes because we're doing this for 8 weeks. But there's a practice that if you can make 3 efforts a day, just 3, to connect, like they call them bids, 3 bids a day to connect, and respond within 3 minutes, it actually has a profound impact on any relationship, not just a marriage, but friendships. Like make an effort, active effort, a bid to connect with somebody. And what happens is the other person begins to notice your attention to them. Think about that. They begin to think, I'm important to them. It sounds silly, but especially in a marriage, you can get so stuck in routines that you don't do these things, and before you know it, y'all are on 2 separate islands. So you actually have to implement practices in order to make them work. One of the things that helps relationships is self-expansion and novelty together. In other words, if you guys do things that's new and challenging together. Now that might not apply to Rachel and I, because the reason I say that is because we did some new and novel things. Like the first date we did was canoeing down the Hillsborough River. And I should have known then because, well, you say all. But if you've ever done it, you know that place is full with alligators. And so I was in the back and she's in the front, and the front steers can turn. And the path branched, and the right side had no alligators, and the left had all alligators. This is our first date. Rachel sees the alligators and starts panicking. I'm like, stop panicking, calm down, don't panic, go right, we gotta go right. And she's going, ah, ah, ah. And she rows us right into the left-hand path. And I promise you there was 25 alligators surrounding us. And I'm like, stop rowing, Rachel. Just stop rowing. I'll get us out of this. And she's screaming, and we're fighting. And I thought, oh, Lord, God have mercy on this marriage. God have mercy on this marriage. And 14 years later, we are still fighting over that canoe. Number 3, gratitude that names specifics. Every day, every single day, you need to tell your partner or those you love something that you're grateful for with specifics. Sometimes with Rachel and I just go, baby, I love the way your almond eyes are. That's it. If I'm mad at her, I have to find something. It'll always be sexual. I'll just be like, the days that I really feel, it'll be like, you're such a prophet of God, and you've carried me through prayer. The days I'm mad at her, I'm just like, your booty looks nice, you know. Babe, you gotta do something. So you find it. All right, number 4. This is all data-backed stuff. It sounds silly, it sounds stupid, but it's real. And guys, I know we resist this stuff. Just do it. Just do it. Do what they tell you. It sounds so cheesy, but you just got to do it. Affectionate touch. It actually helps make you less sick. Did you know this? That affectionate touch, non-sexual touch, just affectionate touch like hugs, makes you less susceptible to illness. That's how much we need to bond through touch. Have you ever been to a hair salon? This is how you know you have trauma in your life. I would go to a hair salon and I'd get a shampoo and I'd start to tear up. I'd be like, oh. And they're like, what's wrong with this guy? And I'm like, I'll pay you $50 more for 10 more minutes. Oh, you're breaking into tears. Just the fade on the side, please. All right. Affectionate touch reduces cardiovascular health. It's led to better stress and hormonal outcomes, better mental health outcomes. It's crazy. Listen to this. If you were to do a predictive test on what keeps a marriage together, some foundational things are like if you're in a church, you have a much higher percentage. If you believe that God put your marriage together, you have a much higher percentage of surviving in the marriage. But one of the things that you might not think about is that regular family meals, even 3 times a week, will raise your chance of staying married double digit percentages. Maybe if you get too busy and you think you're doing good for the kids by skipping family dinners and stuff, the data says otherwise. Just even 3 meals a week together, 3 rituals a week. If you can't do a meal and it doesn't work that way, then do game nights. Do something to where you're doing it together, because the chances of the family staying together increase exponentially. All right. This is a big one. Now we're getting into agape. Forgiveness training. An analysis of relationships shows that forgiveness interventions produce significant improvements in well-being and forgiveness in relationships. And without forgiveness, you will not survive in a relationship. Unless you can truly, truly let something go and forgive it, which means that you don't want them to pay the cost for it. Let me tell you something. I've got a lot of work to do there. Still in my life, there's areas that I go, but you can train this. There's tools. You need to train to forgive, to consciously choose to say, I'm going to forgive, and we're going to work on forgiveness. It actually produces the outcome of this. And maybe you're not there. You should write a letter. Maybe you have a relationship. I don't care what the relationship what it is. Write a letter where you forgive on paper before you actually forgive the person. Just start working towards forgiveness. All right, I see y'all. I'll hurry up. Compassion training, altruistic behavior. When you actually do things to help others, this is agape, self-sacrificial love, your brain changes. Your brain literally changes. And you become more giving in general in relationships. So even little acts of altruism, self-sacrifice, causes your brain to change and causes your relationship to be more satisfying. There's also something called the hedonic scale. It means the base level of happiness, what makes you happy over time. They did long-term studies, and the only thing that raised happiness at scale over an extended period of time was giving into others. It was the only thing. Money up to $100,000 raised happiness, but anything beyond that didn't really raise happiness. Most things were short-term, but long-term, the only thing that raised the happiness level long-term was self-sacrifice and giving to others. All right. Now we get to eros, which is union and desire. This is interesting because sex is important. For relationships, and applies to marriage, just making that clear, sexual communication is a strong predictor of satisfaction in both sex and relationships. So, in other words, communicating about sex is even more important than the frequency with which you have sex, according to the science. So if you have sex, hopefully you're 7 days a week, hoping for you. It's actually more important that you talk about it 10 times a week. And you actually have to have these conversations. If there was one thing as a pastor that I say in marriage that needs to happen in churches, we have got to talk about sex. We've got to, and y'all have to talk about it with each other. Because church culture is like, we just don't talk about it. And I'm like, dude, if we treated eating this way, this is why all the purity cultures are so fat. Because like, they won't talk about sex, but then they'll all go to buffets and they're just like, banana pudding, cheeseburgers, we can talk about this, Golden Corral, oh my Lord. But I'm like, dude, if we, like, It would be weird if we were like, Rachel, do you like cheeseburgers? Yeah, I like cheeseburgers. Oh, don't say you like cheeseburgers. And cheesecake, shoot. Like if we treated food the same way we treated the other biological desire, come on, you see what I'm saying? It's weird. Talk about sex with your partner. Tell them what you like. Tell them what you think about. Tell them the weird stuff, right? And embrace and just say, work through it. Okay, this is the guide, but there's nothing in here about that. We're gonna figure it out though. All right, in the same token, partner responsiveness sparks desire. Respond to your partner. If they feel genuinely responded to, men, if you're not getting sex from your wife, respond to her in other ways, and she's more likely to open up in sex. Vice versa, I'm sure too. It goes both ways. Men are the same way. But if you respond to your partner, they're more likely to, it means like if they have a need and they feel unheard in that need, they're likely to shut down because we see our bodies as gifts of exchange. So it's hard if I have a need in communication and then turn around and give you my body as a gift, right? Right? So if there's responsiveness in one way, there'll be responsiveness in all ways. All right, we're almost done. Afterglow bonds. Sex yields a 48-hour afterglow that predicts a higher marital satisfaction months later. So you can use sex to reconnect. One of the things that, I can say this, because it's not like bad. One of the things Rachel and I do after sex is that we make sure consciously to hold each other. To hold each other. The reason is because can I say orgasm? Is dopamine related to orgasm? What am I allowed to say in church? Y'all gotta help me. Certain chemicals at certain points during the sexual process are tied to dopamine. But after that point, the chemical process changes to oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical. So when somebody produces completion, so stupid. So I feel like a completion. God have mercy. Your brain switches over to oxytocin because it wants to bond to the one that did it. And so it's important that you and your partner, because your heartbeats can actually sync. And over a long-term relationship, oxytocin is the bonding one. Dopamine's the novelty one. That's the one that wants you to go out of the marriage. Oxytocin's the one that keeps you in the marriage. You got it? Okay. So consciously have contact. Okay, and then, yeah, I think that's it. So, is that a good way to end a service? Can I end on that practicality? All right, got to get out of here. So God, I just thank you right now that you're helping heal relationships, that you are doing wonderful things. And I know, God, before even last night, I was going to pray today over relationships, that you're going to do miracles in marriage, that you're going to bring partners forth for those who need them, that you're going to use this series to heal people, to bring deliverance and destiny forth. God, bring forth our destiny partners. And for those that we have partnership with that are walking with us in destiny, God, we ask that your hand be upon us, that we would thrive, not just survive, but thrive. Not just make it, God, but actually succeed and be joyful and walk in peace and fullness. That we would look at each other not just as obligations by God to love, but actually desire to give ourselves fully to our partners, fully to our church family, fully to our friends, fully to our children. God, all the areas that we need to heal, help us heal. Help me heal so that I can be the husband that you've called me to be in the Bible. Help Rachel to heal so that she can be the wife that you've called her to be. And God, even as you heal us, I ask that you heal everybody watching here. Everyone in this house, everyone who's watching online, I ask that your spirit would guide us. I'd ask, God, that you would give us miracles, but I also ask that you would give us resources. Bring in good counselors, bring in good sermons, bring in good books, bring in wisdom that people can apply to their lives beyond just, oh, I'm gonna pray for you, God, but practicality that we need to help us persevere in what you've called us to do. Lord, I ask for fruitfulness in families. I ask for barrenness to be overturned and there to be the fruitfulness of the womb. I ask for children to come forth this year, and even as this relationship series is taught, I ask that this be the time of insemination and impregnation, God, that people's wombs would be full. Those who have been waiting for families, God, would receive it even now. Those who've been waiting for spouses would receive them even now. Let new people walk into this church. God, we have so many beautiful young ladies here who are single, so let the tall, dark, and handsomes walk in the door even now, that godly men would come in, that godly women would come in, and that we would see this house full of families that love you and desire to do marriage and relationships the way that you've designed them to be. We thank you that you have given yourself to us in the greatest act of love we could ever receive. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.